Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Manga Talk series. So today I wanted to go through some manga that I am either iffy on or that I just hate altogether. There was no specific reason why I wanted to do this video. I guess it's just an idea that popped into mind because, a lot of the manga I show on the channel I love. And most manga I love. I need to buy these manga. I wouldn't buy a manga that I would hate. But there are some cases where I have bought manga and not enjoyed them. So yeah, we're gonna go through a couple of those today. I'll just talk about things in general, I guess aren't my thing when it comes to manga, anime, stories. But yeah, this I'll try not to make this video just like a hate video. I don't really like doing that. But everyone has different preferences, and I'll be showing off mine in this one. But yeah, some of these I do genuinely hate, but I'll explain why. So the first thing that I'll show, and I guess I'll kind of bring them all up. So I'll just give a preview of some of the works that you'll see through this video. And there are a couple outside the table that aren't on here right now, but you'll notice that a lot of them are horror manga, and horror manga is both such an interesting genre, but also something that can be very saturated and a bit predictable from what I've seen. So the first thing that I'll go through will be this one here. So this is a Junji Ito manga. This is like the Souichi part of his series. So over the course of everything that I've read from Junji Ito, I haven't read everything from him, but I've mostly loved his stuff. This entire, I think, let me see. Actually, yeah, the whole tankobon here is focused on Souichi as a character. He's like this guy who has nails and curses people and all that. But yeah, in general, I do love Junji Ito. There can be some stories that he has that are misses, but I guess that's more of like, because he has so many stories, I don't really mind. But specifically with Souichi, I've always found Souichi to be a little bit weak in terms of there's not too much in terms of shock factor when it comes to Souichi, because when I think of him, I kind of think of him as just like, he's an annoying little boy. He does pranks that they do have consequences, but it's just every time he comes on screen, he's annoying. Recently, I watched my very first Akira Kurosawa movie. So I'll explain why this is relevant in a second, but my good friend recommended us to watch Ran together. And so Ran is it's in color. So Akira Kurosawa is most well known for the samurai movie, Seven Samurai, Six Samurai. But Ran came out in 1985. It was at the time the most expensive Japanese film made, and it's a story that is based on Shakespeare's King Lear. So I personally haven't read King Lear, but I did know generally of the premise of it before watching. But yeah, it's pretty much like an adaptation of King Lear, but in feudal Japan. So we have what starts off the story of Ran, which means chaos in English. What starts off the story is that I guess a feudal lord, or I guess the ruler of this kingdom, he's getting old, so he wants to give off his kingdom to his three sons. And the issue is that his sons have other motives. Each of them have their own intentions with the kingdom, and he gives most of the kingdom to his first son. And the course of the story, which actually the entire movie is 2.5 hours, we had to split it over 2 sessions because it was such a long movie. But the rest of the movie kind of looks at the consequences of those actions and what happens when all of these conflicting parties have their own intentions with the kingdom. A lot of betrayal, a lot of politics, that sort of thing. It was a great movie, my very first Kurosawa movie, and I did not expect it to be so beautiful. The opening shots of that movie it was so cool. You could see like the entire mountains, and I did read on like Wikipedia that they like had like 200 horses and like hundreds of like foot soldiers for the actors. And it's really cool because when you watch the movie, it's such a refreshing thing because you can see none of it is CGI. They're actually in the mountains. They actually have all these horses, and that's why it was such an expensive movie. But yeah, overall the movie was great. I think you just have to have the patience to sit through 2.5 hours of it. And so the reason why I bring that movie up is because there's a specific character in Ran that is like the jester. He like makes jokes all the time, and every time he came on screen, I got so annoyed at him. I understood his purpose on paper to kind of give an insight into the whole situation, the plot through like metaphors and through his storytelling, but I just hate jesters in general. They annoy me, and every time I saw him on screen I got annoyed. And he reminds me of Souichi, so that's why I brought that topic of Ran up, because of that. Souichi's just the worst. He's an annoying character. I'm not interested in him at all. He doesn't really scare me either. He's just a naughty little boy. And that is the main reason why I did not like any like this Pangobon in general. I did not like any stories with Souichi in it, compared to a lot of the other stuff that Junji Ito has done. I do personally think that's his weakest, but you know, it's like I still own the tankobon, but out of everything I've read, it is the weakest. So I'm curious because I have seen some people, like I do see Souichi a lot in the manga space. I guess it's interesting seeing the divided opinions on him, but it's a great cover. I love the cover. It's that green, like I don't think it's stained glass, but this rainbow background behind it. It's cool. But yeah, that's the first manga of this video that I just, not my thing at all. But I don't hate it. It's not a visceral hatred. There is one work that I do have that for, but that will come later in this series. So the next manga that I'll show, which is another horror manga, is actually this one here. This is Pumpkin Night. And so Pumpkin Night was one of the very early horror manga that I did read, getting into manga as a whole, and it actually is great at some points. The gore in this and the violence in this is so extreme but it's kind of done in a way where it's not cheap. I don't know how to describe it. It's not a cheap thrill. It's not a cheap way to show violence and gore. In my opinion, it was shocking in a good way. But I guess that only applies to the early parts of this series because it's still ongoing. And what I've read recently of the story has just been bullshit, pretty much. It's turned into a series where like superpowers and all this supernatural stuff comes into play, and it's the worst because the plot is utter crap right now. But the premise of this is that we follow, I forgot her name, but she is bullied at school and she comes back for revenge in this pumpkin mask, so nicknamed Pumpkin Night. And it's drawn by a specific artist and written by this mangaka here, Masaya Hokazono. He does a lot of horror works, but they are, you can kind of tell when it is written by Hokazono, because it has that sort of feel to it where you don't know where it will go, whether it will maintain quality. I think the main feature of this manga is that the art is so amazing. If you want very violent scenes, then you will like probably enjoy this manga. It is very, very satisfying because this whole thing is a revenge manga. I can't show too much of it, and the reason why I pulled out these two volumes because there was like a format change. I think it was serialized on one platform and then it moved to another platform, and that's where you get these differences in the design of the volumes. And these are some examples of that. I think I've only got like 7 volumes. I don't know how long it's been going for and how many volumes there are now, but I really hate when a series just goes into random supernatural power tropes for no reason, which actually does remind me of another series that I should have brought up too that does a similar thing. Coffee Moon. I showed off Coffee Moon in a previous video. That's kind of like another series. I wish I should have brought that up. I don't know where I've actually stored Coffee Moon because I did a kind of reshuffle of my room. But Coffee Moon is it's not a horror manga. It's like a time travel manga where this girl is trapped in a specific loop where she repeats the same day over and over. The premise of that and the start of it was amazing because the mystery was just so gripping, but it turned into this magical girl battle shonen series that was the worst, the absolute worst. And I feel like it's Pumpkin Night is at this stage right now. It's something that I do see. I don't know if I see it often, but every time I do see it, I just like get sad because yeah, either the manga doesn't care anymore, or for whatever reason, it's just very cheap to go in that direction. But yeah, unfortunately, Pumpkin Night is at this point. But I still am attached to it because it's one of the earlier horror manga that I've read, the violent ones, and the early stuff is, I think, great. I wouldn't really recommend it for everyone in general, to be honest, because it is violent. It's just a crazy one, but it kind of has a reputation in the manga sphere in terms of just like shocking works in general. There's always a couple of different horror stuff that is always recommended, and this is one of them. So yeah, that was Pumpkin Nights. Very great art, but iffy on the story. So the next one is also, again, another horror manga. Most of these are horror manga. This is Lily's Thread by daredemonai. It's a horror short story collection, but it's all tied by this overall plot, I believe, of this girl. She's like typing these stories. It's been a while since I've read them, but for me, the reason why I did not really enjoy this too much was well, first of all, I will say I love the art. This is one of the coolest covers ever. It's such a great mix of like blue, orange, and red, and this gigantic like plushie dude is so distinct. I love it every time they appear throughout the manga because they're so cute but also so horrific as well. And I do love the art style a lot, and there are some like wholesome scenes like this. But the main reason why I did not enjoy this as much was because the stories were a bit too short, and they never really hit for me in that it wasn't too shocking or yeah, I think the main thing for me was that the length of the stories compromised on how scary they would be or how much I was invested in everything. So it's not too bad of a manga for me. It's like not something that I hate, but it's just a manga that didn't grip me as much as other horror manga. And I can be a bit iffy with horror manga, like short story collections in general. It can take me a while to get into them or enjoy them, but this one is not in English right now. It was originally serialized in like online, and it was collated in this physical tankobon because it was so popular. But overall, great art, quite consistent art throughout, but just stories that never really hit for me. There wasn't anything grabbing me throughout the thing, but a beautiful book. Like, just look at that, all these characters coming together. Such an amazing cover. But yeah, I did show this off very early on in the channel as well, but I just wanted to revisit that too. So the next manga that I'll show off is well, I've got two here. This one's a volume 3. I do have the other volume. So this is called Hakaisha, or The Wanderer. There's 3 volumes of this. This is the third one and the last one. This is a horror manga series about a wanderer, like a spirit or a ghost with scissors that kills people in like a subway train station sort of thing. And it's about like finding out who they are, what they're here for, and all that. And it's a very captivating cover, but it is another example of a story, especially the horror manga story, going too hard into the supernatural element. People just develop powers and then they fight the ghost through those powers, and it kind of turns into a somewhat comedic story, which does not work at all in this setting. I am quite hesitant when I do see stuff like that. And it does remind me again of Sakamoto Days. So I did watch, I think, the first 2 episodes of Sakamoto Days, and I couldn't actually get into it because I did not really like the addition of that main guy being an esper. The fact that he could read minds and stuff was something off-putting to me. It didn't really make sense for the vibe of the story, I guess, and it did feel a bit formulaic, where you can tell, it's a Shonen Jump series, and my tastes haven't been craving any Shonen Jump for quite a while. I have enjoyed a lot of Shonen Jump series, but it's nothing that really draws me in. I've tried watching Dandadan, so I've watched the first season of it. It's okay. I don't think I'd continue with the second season, which was announced recently. But yeah, I haven't really been in the shonen space for quite a while. I think I'll maintain my distance until something kind of catches my attention. But yeah, Hakaisha is another series that just went in a very cheap direction, in my opinion. But in terms of shonen manga overall, it's not something I love a lot of shonen manga, but it can be a very saturated space again, much like horror manga, where you're gonna have to dig a lot to find the diamond in the rough. It's kind of feels at some points like they're a needle in a haystack, for me specifically. But yeah, this is just my opinion. Sorry, the camera had a bit of an issue, but I think what I was saying before was that with the whole shonen thing, me not being in the space at the moment can be saturated and all that. Yeah, I think I was saying that all my this is just my view. I don't really care if you like or not like shonen or anything else. It's just something that I'm in right now in terms of my taste, my preferences. I kind of stay away from it until something nice captures my attention. So that was Hakaisha. The next story that I have, this one I absolutely hated. So this is one of the manga series that I hate and I own, actually, because the reason why I own it is because this is not in English. This is only in Japanese. There's 4 volumes of this. This is called Eimugai, and I wouldn't say it's a horror series. It's more of like a drama, very violent story about a town, pretty much like think of the dark web, but instead of it being online, it's a town. It's a physical town. What we kind of start off with is our main character. Her brother is involved with a killing, and she is going out to find her brother and trying to figure out what happened with him. And turns out he's with like a killer on the loose. But number one, the main character is portrayed to be too naive in a world where all this shit is happening, and it's not her fault, it's the mangaka's fault. There are a lot of mangaka where when you see how they depict or write female characters that they know jack shit, and they always go for very shallow portrayals of them. This is an example of that, which I absolutely hate. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that there's a lot of plot holes in the series, and specifically with characters. Her brother doesn't even get that much character building. I don't even know why they centered on her brother in the first place when he just does nothing, and it's about her instead. That was another thing. And the third thing I would say is that the violence is so unjustified throughout the entire series. It felt like the mangaka was just inserting it because he loved seeing all of this disgusting violence. Like, there is no purpose. It was not to say I guess it's weird to say that violence can be portrayed tastefully, but violence in general in a manga, there are like, it makes sense in certain stories. And in this story, it's portrayed in such a stupid way that it did not make sense at all. It's kind of like the mangaka did it because he liked it himself. It feels like that. And I absolutely hated that. So it was a very disgusting read. I read through the entire thing. It was just scene after scene of senseless violence for no reason that contributed to nothing in the plot, nothing in terms of character progression and maturity, and it just felt like a museum of the mangaka's twisted desires. So yeah, not many manga series can really do that for me. That one was just such a visceral reaction that I've had. So that was interesting. I don't want to have that book in my collection anymore, so I plan to get rid of it. But yeah, going on to, I just realized now I've got 2 more series, this one and another one. Everything except one has been horror manga, so I guess it's kind of just the horror genre in general I have been iffy with. But this one is called Gijin. It's a 4-volume like horror monster series about a world that is infected with all of these like big insect monsters, and our main girl, she is for some reason tied in with all of them. She kind of has not an affinity, but they all want her for some reason. And this is an example, I think, of, well, first of all, I think what I like about it is that the insects are portrayed quite well. I really do like the insect designs and all of the chaos in the series, but everything else I think was just not great. So the character motivations and the backgrounds and the story of everything was all over the place. It didn't feel like anything was everything was in the right direction. It was just scattered everywhere. The second thing as well is towards the ending, they introduced this whole part where time travel is involved, and anytime time travel is involved, it's always, you got to be sensitive with it. You can't abuse that concept in the story to the point where it's dumb, the reader doesn't understand, or again, it's just another cheap trope. In this series, it is used as a cheap trope. From my perspective, it's kind of felt like a way to just wrap up everything for the story, and it did feel rushed as well. I like the covers, they're great, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's anything special, this series here. So it's tough. When you do get into horror manga, it is a gamble, unfortunately. As with everything, to be honest, getting into shonen manga is a gamble as well. Just finding great series is a gamble no matter what you're going into. But I think horror manga, I've been trying to be more careful of and trying to up my standards of it, because I've been cut so many times. There've been so many series where I either don't like or I hate entirely, and this just happens to fall under the ones that I don't enjoy and found it to be kind of a waste of time. So yeah, it's a lot of bullshit powers and that sort of vein. So yeah, that was Gijin, 4-volume series about insects and time travel. And so the last one, this I guess may come as a surprise. So to preface, I don't hate this manga. I don't hate Haruko Ichikawa short stories. I just want to talk about it because it's an interesting book to bring up in this type of video. So this, I guess, relates, I'll bring up the other one as well. So Haruko Ichikawa is the creator of Land of the Lustrous, one of my favorite manga. I love the anime as well. Just have so much respect for Haruko Ichikawa, and the ending of Land of the Lustrous, which I only finished last year, killed me. It was such a great way to wrap up the entire story. It was like a full circle moment. But the reason why I have her short stories out here, so this is like 25-hour Vacation and Insects and Songs, I believe it's called. I've read both of these. I don't hate them, but I think there's a specific thing with Haruko Ichikawa that I'm a little bit iffy on, is that her storytelling sometimes can be a little bit hard to follow, can be a little bit disjointed. So I would say the first thing is that all these stories in these 2 tankobon, they've got very unique premises and settings and characters and all that, but I'm not sure what it is, but maybe it's the dialogue or the pacing or choreography of the panels or whatnot. it can be quite hard to follow along with the story. And I have sort of seen that as a trend between this book and that book. So I'm not sure if it's just me that is feeling that specifically, but it's just something that I've noticed and something that I thought I wanted to bring up just to see, I guess, if you have any opinions on this, feel free to comment below. But just wanted to talk about that, I guess, because Haruko Ichikawa it's interesting because Land of the Lustrous is one of my favorite manga, or favorite long-running manga out of everything, and I wish that there would be a continuation of the anime, because that was such a unique anime. They only had one season, but yeah, it's compared to out of everything else, it's these manga I hate or dislike the least. It's just an interesting part of storytelling that I haven't gelled with entirely or had experience with. So it's an interesting manga, and I guess a style of storytelling for me. But especially for Land of the Lustrous, she does use a lot of like these dark panels. It works very well, especially because, you know, they're going to space, the moon, that sort of thing in the story. But with these ones, they do work well. It is very atmospheric, but I think it's mainly just the direction of storytelling and the dialogue that can throw me off for a bit. But yeah, no hate towards Haruko Ichikawa. I love her stuff. I have every volume of Land of the Lustrous except the last one, maybe, because the last one only came out like last year, so I should pick that up soon. But yeah, so that was today's video. An interesting one for me, because I kind of like the whole idea of this video. I didn't want it to seem like I was like hating. It was just like a hate-filled video, although, you know, I did hate this specific story, that sort of thing. I want to respect creators, but in terms of like preferences of what I like in stories, there can be things that I just want to talk about and put a spotlight on. And it's especially interesting as well to see what else people prefer and not prefer. I'm not offended if you hate any of my favorites either. I try to be open and, you know, see that everyone has their own preferences in manga. You could hate Gekiga, you could hate shoujo manga, whatever. That's fine. This channel for me anyways is just discussing what I like and what I don't like. So I guess this video was that. So I am interested to see if you guys have any, whether it comes from manga or movies or books, webtoons, anything like that, what tropes you might not like, something that you don't prefer to see, something that you might think is cheap in stories. It's always interesting to see, and like I guess I've tried to talk about it in this video where it's like kind of not trying to spread hate, because I guess that's the one thing I don't want this to be. I've tried to make it where I'm honest but still not promoting, just spreading negative energy around. Some stories have more weaknesses than strengths, I guess. But yeah, so hope you guys have enjoyed that one. This is quite a different video to all the other stuff that I've created, but I just felt like, you know, it's something that's worth making as a video, because in terms of the other videos that I do talk about, like, if I show a manga and I don't like it, I do say it, but most of the manga that I show on my channel I do love, and, you know, I have them physically, so I kind of have to like them in order to have them, right? And there are cases where I will buy manga to read them and they don't turn out great. That's just a gamble. It's unlucky, but most of the stuff that I show I do love. But yeah, this is just a video collecting some of the stuff I don't. And if you see my anime list as well, I do drop a lot of manga, so sometimes my standards can be high, especially as you can see from today. A lot of them are horror manga, so that's a thing too. And kind of, I was planning to end the video, but something that kind of this reminds me of another thing that I don't like, not in horror manga. I think back to the specific shoujo manga that I read called Hibi Chocho. It's your typical like high school romance series, but the reason why I didn't like that was because the main couple stressed over the most mundane thing, and the pacing was so slow. Like it was like this couple took so long just to hold hands, and they made such a big thing about holding hands, and they didn't go that far after that. So it was just felt like very immature, to the point where it was just like there was no point for this, like get to the point, that sort of thing. But that reminded me of that. But I do love shoujo manga in general, but it can really get to that stage sometimes where it's like, please just fast forward and do something. That sort of thing. But yeah, that was just a small thing that I was reminded of as I was ending off the video. But hope you guys have enjoyed this different video. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.